In a shocking turn of events for absolutely nobody, Jim Jordan gets absolutely plastered, destroyed, put up, hoisted upon to get voted into the speakership, just to fail for not once, but twice, but also 3 freaking times. This guy now is looking at the barrel of a gun that is shooting blanks. The guy cannot even end himself. It is this awkward death of not getting voted into the speakership. But he prostrated himself. He put his name in there and he lost. He loved and he lost. But not only that, but he didn't even get to assume temporary speakership. He didn't even get that. It went to some Anderson Cooper knockoff in Patrick McHenry, who's like a 47-year-old know-it-all politician from the swamp in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Some abomination similar to that. Anyhow, so basically this Jim Jordan guy, horrible life decision in putting himself to the speakership race and then loses in spectacular fashion. In fact, this third vote that I saw happen live in a radio station basically was worse than the second or the first time from my understanding. And that's just kind of pathetic. And so everybody kind of looks like an idiot in this, and it's kind of embarrassing. And frankly, I did want Jim Jordan to win, but I mean, this is kind of a sad way to go out, isn't it? So they've gone 17 days without an official speaker ever since Matt Gaetz yeeted Kevin McCarthy out of the Congress, okay? And now this is really a deep red conservative thing, an issue by real Republicans, because the rhinos and the Democrats wanted Kevin McCarthy in power because they want to broker deals around because they're cucked and they're gay. But these people, I guess they're happy now, so they are gay. Because ultimately, they got what they wanted. They got their temporary speaker. They got the Republicans shooting themselves in the foot, frankly, because now they spent all this energy on getting rid of a speaker that they couldn't really get rid of. And so now you have the dollar store version of Kevin McCarthy, and you've got Matt Gaetz propping up Jim Jordan just to have that fail. And it's embarrassing. And so they even had Steve Scalise run, didn't work out. Steve Scalise, who's like a midpoint between Jordan and McCarthy, that failed as well. So they went from like a center-right Republican in McCarthy to a right-wing guy in Scalise to a far-right guy in Jim Jordan. Failed on that front. The other front, now we're back to Patrick McHenry, who nobody knew existed up until like this week. And this guy is swamp as shit. Anyway, when we're looking at this, to quote McCarthy, he says, "I'm concerned about where we go from here." Now, he'd been backing Jordan, you know, obviously with a knife behind his back in a very unserious, duplicitous way. He's like, oh, no, it's okay. Kind of like when you divorce your wife. You're like, oh, I hope you're happy. Like, bitch, I don't want you to be happy ever. What do you mean? What do you mean? So he says, it's astonishing to me. And we're in a very bad position as a party. Well, what does that even mean? Well, we're in a bad position because you commit to something, you fail, and now we're walking our way back. But in reality, what should have happened is you burn the bridge and you leave it alone. But instead, we kind of waffle back. It's a love-hate. But it'd be one thing if you're in a love-hate relationship with like some psychotic girlfriend or something, because at least that's exciting. She's hot. No, but instead it's, you know, psychotic love relationship with like some boring 60-year-old white pasty former gym instructor or whatever Jim Jordan is. Kevin McCarthy, part of the Young Guns as of 15 years ago, looking more like the pension gun because there's only one out of the 3 original group there left in Congress. And so it's a very tepidly sort of awkward situation to deal with. Now, what is basically such an important detail here is that the government is about to shut down next month. And what the problem is there is that this is going to be one of the bigger moments of the midterm election. And what I mean is, like, in these 2-year intervals, what you'll have is the president as one party and then the opposite party as the spender and the guarantor of the purse, in which case would be like the spending appropriation bills going on in Congress. And so if the House of Representatives is Republican and they're supposed to be contradicting Joe Biden and, you know, grabbing him by the balls and saying, you know what, we're going to control the money, boy, and control the credit card. Well, what's happening is that the government's going to shut down if they don't come to an agreement. Now, at least with Kevin McCarthy, there wouldn't have been a shutdown probably because he would have just cucked to Joe Biden and then things would have been more stable. And then we can go on to spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on Ukraine, Israel, other countries, the way that we're used to. But the point is that obviously we have a problem. And instead of just like severing the bridge completely, like if you're going to amputate your leg, you better not just stop halfway because like what the hell is the point? But that's exactly what just happened. So now we can't even run anymore. And now we're just going to be hopping around on crutches for the rest of our life because we just tore our ACL, MCL, half the fucking kneecap is missing. And we're still not even halfway through the leg, mind you. Now, who could be speaker at this point? We've got Representatives Kevin Hern of Oklahoma, Joni Arrington of Texas, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, Jack Bergman of Michigan. All are expected to join the speaker race. who the fuck are these people, by the way? So yeah, this is the sort of bench we're running with in the Republican Party. Are we a serious party? We've got like 200 people to pick from, and these are the best. I haven't even heard of these people. I know more about politics than virtually everybody on the planet my age, and yet I do not even know what the fuck these people are. Tough. Now, here's another important wrinkle. We had 122 Republicans voting to get rid of Jim Jordan as the nominee, which is more than half of them. And then only 86 of them, which leaves 30 as like queer, like non-voters, these like indecent bastards, undecided, call it. Yeah, we'll call it that. So you have 86 that are like, oh, no, we're going to stick with Jim Jordan, even though he already lost 3 times, right? And we don't like losers, folks. Anyhow, plus, notice how silent Donald Trump has been on this issue. I get it that I don't check his Truth Social, I don't read that, but the point is that I've not really heard his position on this because it's obvious that he sees it for whatever the shit show it is. And so now we're dealing with a situation in which we've got Republican Representative Mike Lawler, by the way, out of New York saying that Jim Jordan did the right thing and that he was very gracious for exiting the race. So Jim Jordan just leaves with the tail tucked between his legs like a transsexual. It's tough. And then we've got another quote here. We're saying that we need to find a consensus. Obviously, Scalise and Jim Jordan could not find a consensus. And so now we need to find ourselves back to the drawing board. And then another Republican posed and said, who's going to get us to 217 votes? Says Representative Andy Barr from Kentucky. And that is kind of the problem, isn't it, folks? Today we're dealing with somebody who, we're dealing with the party that out of 250 people, okay, I was cut off pretty spontaneously, sorry. Anyway, the point is that we've got a caucus of what, like 235 Republicans, something like that. And you can even pick one that everybody likes enough to actually be a congressman. A congressman that could be the Speaker of the House. You cannot even find that. So it's like, at that point, we're a bunch of fucking snakes, huh? Like, let's get a little bit of trust here, Republican delegation. Like, can you pick one guy with enough swagger and charisma to be the representative for all of you? How come none of them can do that? They cannot all put their egos aside and say, like, okay, can at least 217 of us, like 225 people or whatever many there is, say, like, okay, let's pick one guy. No, all of them have to be like, oh, I want this guy. I want me to do it. I want all these, like, fucking D-list politicians want to be like, oh, I can be Speaker. Nigga, wait your turn. Wait your turn. What the hell are we talking about today? What is going on? Instead, we're dealing with a conglomerate of people that cannot make up their minds because they cannot put their egos aside. And that's really too bad. Now, does Matt Gaetz really win here where he does this big thing in getting rid of McCarthy, which is awesome. And I really respect that because it took a lot of balls for him to shoot a shot. But, I mean, he didn't miss, but, like, he didn't have a backup, right? So it's like, I hate our coach, so let's get a new coach. But then when you fired the old coach that sucked, now it's like, okay, where is the new coach? It's, you know, like, what the fuck are we even doing? So now you have a substitute teacher being your professor, and it's like, okay, well, things are chugging along, but like at a very tepid, like a dog in water, sort of like I'm about to die sort of thing. So at that point, what are we going to do? And so the party is looking utterly felted and dejected, etc. Now, I'm checking Reddit to see what the r/politics people say because, of course, these are the #1 A-logs, or we'll say critics of the Republican Party. And you'll notice right away that and I'm quoting Encarded from 6 days ago, the entirety of the GOP House gets together in a room, looks around at each other and question themselves among them, who here is a quality person that can lead us? ? And they come up with, well, nobody, I guess. Such a pathetic and horrible outcome for our political system. And that is honestly low-key, that is true, right? Because obviously there's over 200 of you middle-aged niggas. Can you figure it out? And they can. And it's like, brother, come on. And it's not even a woman thing. It's not even like oh, it's the minorities. No, I mean, it's straight up just like, okay, you know, you're a bunch of high IQ rich people. Can you figure it out? And they can't. And it's like, brother. So it's a lot of egotism going on. Obviously, like, even me of all people, I'd say, like, you know what? Okay, I'll vote for the one that's more popular. I'll just bite the bullet. Okay, we need a speaker. Do it. The Democrats would never have this issue. That's something that you got to give credit to the Democrats, is that they're never really splintering amongst each other. You'll have the Palestinian pro-Hamas or whatever, AOC people, Ilhan Omar, the retards. You can have that brigade working with Joe Biden, with Joe Manchin, with Bernie Sanders, all these diverse set of idiots, okay? They can all actually vote on the exact same bill in unison almost every single fucking time. But then you'll have the Republicans, when it's time to actually use your 51% majority, they always splinter. And it's so gay. It'd be one thing if you had like the very far right side with the moderate side, and they meet in the middle. But instead, it's always the moderates going with the left and the right wing being like, hey, what's up, dude? and then they hardly ever yank them back to the right, and it's utterly infuriating because on one hand you have Kevin McCarthy and the Democrats conspiring against the right wing of the Republican Party, and it's like, what are we going to get done? And eventually it's absolutely jack shit. So when the Republican Party wants to do something, it's like, oh, we're going to cut taxes by 5%. Okay, and that was good, but like, okay, are you going to fund the wall? Paul Ryan, are you going to help Donald Trump out the first 2 years of office? No. You're going to do some bullshit Obamacare repeal that hardly even worked, and it actually didn't. They just got rid of the mandate, okay? So they campaigned for years on getting rid of Obamacare. They don't really do it, okay? They campaign on a wall. They don't finish it. Why? Because the Republican Party, the establishment, the fucking House can't get its fucking thing in order. And so at least a frat house full of a bunch of dotards in their 20s can actually figure out, okay, we're going to get the freshmen to clean this with a toothbrush. We're going to dump the beer cans outside. These fuckers in the House that are like 50 years old, millionaires with pensions, cannot figure it out. Just pick one fucking dude and have him be the House Speaker. No, we can't have that. Why? Because they can't get their egos out of the way. And it's utterly appalling that we even have something approximating a fucking wage for these people, because it is such a waste of the taxpayer funds to give these people, what, like $150K a year plus like six paid staff and like all these free coffees. And when you go to the Congress, there's a ton of free shit they have, all these offices. And for what? For what exactly? So they can shut down the government on us so they can fund Israel, so they can fund Ukraine. Why, bro? It's such a waste. And I don't even pay taxes because I'm a broke college student. So I shouldn't even be this mad, but it's like, brother, can we get it together? House GOP, get your shit right. Anyways, adios.